We're back for your ears only. I'm Eddie Robinson.
I'm David Alpern with this quote from the news. Tumultuous conduct. That was New York City Police Commissioner Raymond Kelly on the continuing anti-Wall Street demonstration, during which a top officer last week was caught on video using pepper spray on a number of female protesters. The incident is under investigation. Now this.
Well, obviously, before you ever get to that point, you have to build a relationship in that region. And that's one of the things that this administration has not done. Yes, yesterday we found out through Admiral Mullen that Haqqani has been involved with, and that's the terrorist group directly associated with the Pakistani country. So to have a relationship with India, to make sure that India knows that they are an ally of the United States.
If you say that we should not educate children who have come into our state for no other reason than they've been brought there by no fault of their own, I don't think you have a heart.
For mainstream voters in and out of the Republican Party, near gibberish from presidential wannabe Rick Perry asked how he would respond to a Taliban seizure of nuclear weapons in Pakistan was seriously disturbing. But much of the GOP's most conservative base was more put off by Perry's support as governor of Texas for state resident tuition benefits to illegal immigrant youth and his calling immigration hardliners who oppose that plan heartless. Perry subsequently backpedaled a bit, but the tuition issue, along with his support of mandatory STD vaccinations for young girls and his poor debate performance generally, stalled Perry's remarkable rise to frontrunner status.
There were shifts as well in the Democratic presidential dynamic as President Obama finally began to forsake finding compromise with a Tea Party-dominated Republican majority in the House. At the White House and on the road, he plugged ever more vigorously for a jobs plan that was more appealing to his party base than it was likely to win passage on the Hill. And he had some mildly good economic news at his back last week with the lowest number of jobless claims in 5 months. To consider political dynamics on both sides of the aisle, we're joined again by TV commentator Eleanor Clift, also a contributor at Newsweek Daily Beast. Welcome back to the program.
Glad to be with you.
How serious is the setback for Perry following his recent debate appearances and conservative complaints about those mandated vaccinations, which actually never happened, and tuition benefits for illegals, which some say could actually help him with Latino voters?
Well, it looked for a time like he was going to cruise to the nomination. I think now we're probably looking at a protracted fight between Mitt Romney and Rick Perry. Although with the primary shortened season, money is going to be very important, and I think Romney dominates there. Emotionally, I think Perry still has more of a connection with the Republican base, but they've got serious concerns based on his debate performance and the fact that he's strayed from their agenda in a couple of these important areas. If he did get the nomination, though, you're right, his more expansive view of immigration, which is more in line with where George W. Bush was, and these are governors of Texas. They have lived with this issue. I think his approach would be much more appealing in a general election, but it's a problem in the primaries.
You talked about the primary shortened schedule and the importance of money. Is that the major impact you see from Florida's jump ahead on the presidential primary calendar and the shakeup that it's going to cause?
Yes. I mean, I think the idea of Florida going later and having the 4 early states go and then have kind of a breathing part for a while so everybody can regroup would allow other candidates to stay in the race longer. But the money required to fight in all these contests so early really does favor the more establishment candidate. And I guess, although the Republican Party doesn't have much of an establishment left, Romney comes closest.
How do you read black businessman Herman Cain's win in a Florida GOP straw vote?
Well, I think that people really like what he has to say. I mean, he's a powerful speaker. He has a personal story that's appealing, and he's triumphed in the business world. And I think some elements of the Tea Party have been accused of racism, and I think they feel vindicated that they feel so warmly and strongly towards Herman Cain. And I think he's also kind of a placeholder. I mean, it's a way to express their dissatisfaction with either of the front runners, with Romney and Perry. And I think most of them, though, would probably agree that it's unlikely that Herman Cain given his limited experience in politics, that he would be the one to get the nomination.
What about Mitt Romney's smooth, just ride-it-out strategy versus the increasing pressure on New Jersey's tough-talking Governor Chris Christie to enter the race?
Well, I think Romney's been playing it exactly right so far. Whether he can continue to get away with this really above-the-battle strategy, is another question. But I think so far he's handled everything correctly, and it really shows the advantage of someone who's been through this process before. And I'm not sure New Jersey Governor Chris Christie in the end is going to get in the race. I kind of doubt he will, because he's looking around, and the results of these late entering candidates who come in looking like they can really save the party and the country. Recent history of that has not been good. I'm thinking General Wesley Clark, who was supposed to be a Democratic powerhouse, and then Fred Thompson, supposed to be a Republican powerhouse, and they came in with great applause and exited soon after.
Let's turn to President Obama, who seems to have taken your prescription to, quote, regroup, reboot, and grow bolder. Whether it amounts to class warfare is highly debatable, but some say he's alienating moderates and independents in hopes of recharging the liberal, youth, and minority base that turned out in 2008. What's your view?
Well, it's hard to get the mixture just right. He does need to appeal to his base, and they really want him to fight back. But I think the way President Clinton and Bill Clinton as a candidate phrased it is really the best way to do it, and that is, if you work hard and play by the rules, you should get a fair break in this society. And that's less setting up conflict with others, but sort of asserting the rights, if you will, of the large number of people in this country, and the numbers don't lie. I mean, the middle class has really lost ground in the last not only 3 years, the last 30 years. And so I think the president does need to speak to that, but he doesn't want to run into the buzzsaw that the Republicans have set up, that he's somehow choking off job creation by somehow penalizing people at the top who are the job creators. So you got to get the language just right. I think so far the president's doing pretty good.
But the headline on your column about Obama's jobs plan used the word dodge. Do you see it more as a political platform than serious economics?
Well, I think that he has a chance to get some of it through. I mean, extending the payroll tax, I think Republicans really don't want to be responsible if every working person's paycheck has less money in it starting next year because they failed to pass this. So he may get some of it, but this is not a piece of legislation or a proposal that is designed to win Republican votes, and I think he has tried that, and he didn't get any Republican votes even when he tailored things to their liking. And so I think this is another approach, and it is a highly political approach, and we're in a campaign that's going to continue for the next 13 months.
TV commentator Eleanor Clift, also a Newsweek Daily Beast contributor. Her books include 2 Weeks of Life, a memoir of love, death, and politics, Founding Sisters and the 19th Amendment, and Madam President, Shattering the Glass Ceiling.
Quote from the news, Congress takes group of school children hostage. Quote, we need $12 trillion or all these kids die. That was a predictably disruptive headline tweeted by the Onion comedy news operation reporting gunfire, kidnapping, and a ransom demand to solve the nation's debt crisis.
Next, Russia's once and future president. For your ears only.